Okay, is it recording?
It looks perfect.
All right, here we are on The Blind Man in Black. And here we are with it's Brian on Brian action. Brian Buckley of the Brian Buckley Band. We went to Cal Arts together. You're a musician, a writer, an actor, many, many things that we're going to learn about. And I'm so excited to have you. It's been so long since we've connected. How are you holding together, man?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor, and it's just great to reconnect with you after all these years. It's been far too long, so I'm thrilled to and humbled to be invited. I'm doing as well as can be expected, given the circumstances. I feel like given the circumstances is sort of the terminology you use after anyone asks you how you're doing in 2020. You immediately say, "I'm doing good given the circumstances." But
it's a shit show for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do feel very lucky in a lot of respects that that I'm alive and breathing and managing. So the simple things, I think, if anything were to be a lesson, has been a real really beautiful. So yeah, so doing well, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. I mean, I have my shitty days, and it's an odd thing, man, because my day job is I'm an emergency preparedness coordinator for older adults and people with disabilities. So I hear a lot of
Amazing.
people going through some really shitty times, and then
Right.
just dealing with crises and things like that, and then I myself am going through like my final stages of vision loss, where I'm
Jesus.
pretty much getting to the point where it's my eyes are there's so much visual noise and shit that I really can't see anything anymore. And it's interesting that it's all happening at once, but it's 2020. It's a clusterfuck. And why? I guess I should be like, why shouldn't I expect it to be happening? So. I mean, I'm not surprised, but on the other hand, I'm like, it could have waited a little longer, but I could have used a couple more months, but that's just the way it is. But listen, I'm honored to have you here. And one of the reasons I was so excited to have you is when we were at Cal Arts, you were one of the most kind, gentle, sweet people there. And it's amazing to me. You're a great actor. And then I had no fucking idea that you had this singing voice and that you were a musician. And I really want to, kind of get into it, because like, I don't remember you playing a guitar. I don't remember you singing once. I mean, you weren't the guy on the lawn, with his shirt off, like just, like the Family Guy guitar guys, like, I'm so sensitive, and like, you weren't that guy. I don't know what happened. When did you pick up a fucking guitar? When did you start singing?
Well, first of all, I have to say the kindness compliment comes is welcomed, being that it comes from you, specifically from you, because the feeling is overwhelmingly beyond mutual. I felt the same way about you. I think that's one of the reasons we initially connected, if memory serves me correctly. But
well, I think we met we kind of we got closer through being in an insane asylum together. We were in Marasad together, right?
No. Marasad, I was a huge fan of. You guys did that with Lou, as I recall.
Yeah, but weren't you in it as part of? Because I remember he took some of the other from the class below, which you were in. And put some people.
No, I wasn't. I would have loved to have been. It still to this day goes down as one of my most favorite theater experiences was your guys' class doing Marasad. I was just immeasurably blown away.
Well, yeah, it was a fun show. But wait a minute, were you in Or the Whale?
I was.
Okay, that I wasn't sure about Marasad, but Or the Whale, I remember you were in. That was Julie Crockett's.
That was Julie Crockett's. Yeah, which was a blast, and hands down one of the most bizarre things I've ever done, which is
Right.
is ultimately a compliment, because who tries to physicalize Moby Dick? I don't know anybody who has those sort of cojones other than Julie Crockett. So good on her.
And
And I had a
speaking of
blast.
dicks, I remember I didn't see it, but I heard that your penis made an appearance in Spring Awakening.
Spring Awakening, yeah, my second year. Yeah,
And for
it was the nude calling of my life.
but you were like hoisted into the air, like your penis was put up on a pedestal, like
Yeah, it was basically it was the best way to enter a theater school ever,
with your penis in the air
with your
and
penis
waving it like
just
you just don't care.
completely nude, happily nude. It was a wonderful way to step into the limelight of what theater school is and can be. And also, what a terrific play. That was a wonderful experience as well. That's actually where I met Drago,
Right.
and became pretty close to Drago. So that was also every experience that I had there. I mean, as albeit very intensely stressful, was remarkably interesting and fun. And I look back on it with nothing but love in my heart. But yes, that was my one and only nude moment. Thank God there wasn't camera phones back then. Otherwise, it would have been entirely different.
Yeah,
experience.
your penis would have been immortalized on YouTube. But I feel saddened that I didn't get to see your penis because I don't know what happened. I don't know what I was doing, or
right.
I might have been. I went into a mental hospital at the end of my I guess it wasn't. So that was your second year. So that was probably my third year. So I wasn't in the hospital then. But
I did that. This is brand new news to me.
Well, it was weird. We did Mara Assad, and I think that kind of affected me in a weird way, like thinking about my own mental health. And
right.
And I was the year after I just learned that I was losing my eyesight, so I think there was some delayed processing that was happening. And I just remember I was in my apartment and I was thinking my cat wanted to kill me, and
Wowzers.
I told the counselor at Cal Arts, I'm like, I think my cat wants to kill me. I feel like, and I'm waking up in these weird animalistic, like pacing things as it rages, and I don't know what's going on. And she's like, maybe you should go check yourself in. And I did.
I don't mean to laugh, but it was the way you.
No, it's funny. It is. And I went in, and they immediately I was diagnosed as schizophrenic, which scared the shit out of me because my uncle had schizophrenia and killed themselves. So I was like, fuck. And it was a long time ago. So, I mean, it was just like, but I was still just like, am I going to just repeat this cycle? You know what I mean?
Right. Of course.
And so I turned out that that was a misdiagnosis, and fortunately, and I went to several psychiatrists. I'm like, am I fucking schizophrenic or what? And they're like, no, you have severe depression with psychotic symptoms, which make more sense. So, but
that's I'm so happy to hear that they misdiagnosed it. Although how terrifying to be misdiagnosed initially. I mean, that's
I'm still crazy, but I think I know, so maybe I'm not as crazy as I could be.
If there's an iota of self-awareness on the level of craziness, I feel like that's a good thing. It's got to be a good thing, because I think we're all, particularly in this calendar year, maybe in the past 4.5, but particularly in this calendar year, it feels like everybody's a little more hyper self-aware than they ever were before, and I just don't know how that's a bad thing. I think self-awareness is paramount to living the fullest experience of this very strange, beautiful, tragic reality as we can. But I never answered your initial question, how I sort of entered the arena of music.
Well, let's do this.
Yeah,
Let's
Timmy,
go
you
back
go
even
first,
further because I
please.
really don't know much about you beyond our experience at Cal Arts.
Right.
And when I heard you created your own band and how successful it is, I was like, wow, that's amazing. But
Thank you, man.
now, am I correct if I remember you are from Sacramento?
Right. Sacramento. Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. That's what I remember. So is that where everything began? Is that the genesis of Brian Buckley?
Yeah, I was actually born in Los Angeles. My parents decided to move to Sacramento. I guess when I was about 6 months. So I was raised in Sacramento. Um, stayed there until 18 before I went to Cal Arts. Once I moved to Cal Arts, I've been in LA ever since. So that was over 20 years ago now, which is a
Hold on,
bizarre concept.
you're skipping a whole. There's a reason you became an actor, and I want to get the underlying root causes of that.
Yes.
What happened? What happened to you is what I'm asking.
Well, I guess I was always a bit of a cinema geek. I was a huge fan of films, which led me to really appreciate theater. And when I was in high school, my freshman year of high school, my particular school that I went to was sort of nationally renowned. The actor or the director slash theater teacher there was sort of really well known nationally. Um, and my mom was like, "Look, if you love this so much, why don't you go give it a shot for a play?" And I just thought, oh, I'm going to get teased and I'm going to get destroyed in school, and all my friends are not going to, all the typical insecurities that a young person has. And she was like, "But you don't have to do chores for like a week." And I was like, "What? Perfect." So I decided to, and I auditioned and got into this play, and then it just became an obsession. I couldn't go to enough theater. I couldn't see enough movies. I went into the backlog of everything cinema I could find. I racketed up a Blockbuster video account of late fees that's probably still Blockbuster video history, I think, at this point. So I just became.
Are you still on their collections, even though they're gone? Are you like, or is there still a collection agency trying to get those late fees?
I don't think anymore. I think once they quit, it was done. But I think for a little while there, it was probably like, if we need a little cash flow, let's go check on Buckley.
Yeah, he's racked
But
up a bill.
Yeah, and so because of this wonderful guy's name's Armin Katneri, he sort of opened me up to the world of theater and to acting, and I was bit so hard I just couldn't really concentrate or imagine anything else. And so from there, he sort of recommended, "Hey, why don't you audition for these schools?" So I auditioned for a couple, I think actually only three.
Which
Goodman,
ones?
Juilliard, and Cal Arts, and I got into Goodman and Cal Arts. And so I
didn't get into
Cal
Juilliard either.
Yeah, right.
I got it through the second part of audition, but not the first.
Right.
We got to the second audition, but that was it.
I don't even remember at this point. I just remember thinking it was sort of a bizarre experience, but in general, in choosing Cal Arts, it was LA. I knew I wanted to stay out in LA post school, and so it was a simple choice for me, and I fell in love with the experience. Is maybe virtually the one place that I can think of where you can really make a lot of mistakes and still get back up, and you can experiment and try things that no one else will ever let you do, monetarily speaking. So
right.
it was a wonderful experience. It also made me realize.
How was the light on your penis? Did that feel weird to have that much light, like spotlighted?
I can't remember, and at this point I'm sort of glad, because it's the fourth time you brought it up.
I only bring it up because it's got to be an odd experience, because and actually I'm a little bit jealous, because you know what it is when you're asked to be nude, that automatically means you're a leading man, and I'm obviously a character actor, and I have not been asked to be nude. In fact, I was yelled at for taking my shirt off because you remember the Rivers of China play?
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and I was yelled at by the director because my clothes were not my scene change clothes were not left backstage. So I was like, I gotta look different than I did in the last scene. So I was like, I'm gonna take my shirt off, and she got so fucking pissed at me, and I was like, I didn't know what else to do. I mean, so, but
You know, one of the things with it, I mean, sort of what you going off of what you just said, is there's also like a really sort of insane level of competition at CalArts,
mm,
which I felt was slightly counterproductive to creating art in a way that, you know, you're supposed to approach it in a non-judgmental way at a place like that. That's sort of this holy sacred ground of, hey, you come here and we figure it out together. So it was interesting for that. And then going out into this, I guess, leads me to post-graduation, but I came out and I sort of right off the bat realized that there's not much meritocracy in Hollywood, which I don't know if is a good thing or a bad thing in the long run, but there's not much of it. A lot of it has to do with, you know, your level of fame or you know, nepotism or whatever you want to refer to it as. But I realized that I had to be the master of my own universe and sort of create for myself. So myself and Nataki Garrett put together a theater company called Blank the Dog. And we were putting on plays for a few years. And in the midst of all of this, when I was a very young kid, I picked up the guitar because I loved music. My dad sort of raised me on Hendrix and you know, Clapton and all these incredible artists that I still love to this day. And so guitar was always my way of taking a break, like, you know, in the middle of CalArts when shit was getting far too stressful for a typical 18-year-old to handle. I would go back to the dorm room and I would pick up the guitar and just free myself of the burden of competition. And it was
wow.
really, really wonderful to just have this thing to go back to. And so it became a little bit of a church for me, more of a spirituality where there was no control. There was, you know, with acting, one of the beautiful things is, in fact, maybe perhaps the greatest thing is that you're escaping every single bit of what you are, right? You're entering this entirely different experience in this different world, this different skin, in an existence you'll never, ever no other way in the world would you be able to experience. And that in and itself is the inherent nature of that is exceptional and raw and wonderful and terrifying. But with music, it has everything to do with you. You have to look inward. It has to be, you have to be able to connect to a level of vulnerability. Otherwise, you know, in my estimation, sort of what's the point? So so I had kind of the best of both worlds. I could kind of go back and forth. I didn't really tell people I played because I just didn't really want to talk about it. But I did have a friend at CalArts who lived in the dorms. He had a few guitars on him. He was in the music department. Really nice guy, Charlie, and he would lend me his guitar. And on weekends when everybody would go party, I'd take a deep breath from Marlowe and Shakespeare and lock myself in the bathroom and play music. So that's kind of where that all began. And then when I got out and we started a theater company, all of that sort of thing, my best friend of 20 plus years, for a very, very long time, committed suicide. And it hit me in a way that I don't think I mean, it altered my reality in a way that was sort of a before and after, right? Like there was a before me and then a virtually entirely different me after. And he had always really pushed me to chase music. So after he died, I was distraught in a way that was recognizable for family and friends. And then my girlfriend and I broke up, who happens to now be my wife. Another story. So I was all sorts of fucking down the paradoxical rabbit hole. I was just lost in my own voids of netherworlds. I mean, it was just pretty much gone. So another friend of mine who was a really successful actor. Actually, he's the actor on Supernatural, one of the main actors on Supernatural, Jared Padalecki. At the time, he was on a show called Gilmore Girls, and he said to me, look, I don't have much, but why don't I pay for you to go into the studio and just put some songs down? And I was so distraught and gone and didn't know where, or what I was, that I had agreed. And I stepped in the studio with this producer, a Frank Zappa producer. We put down a record called For Her, and it got some traction, got some pull, and then I got signed from it. And so it kind of happened. It was sort of by happenstance, to be honest with you, Brian. It wasn't anything that I forced. I wasn't forcibly pushing one or the other, or forcibly pushing one or the other away. The universe kind of cracked it for me, and thank God, because if acting is that beautiful experience, music is sort of, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like it's just rejoicing and release is really what it is. It's just a complete release. So I'm sorry for the long story, but that's essentially where the genesis was. So.
No need to apologize. Yeah, I mean, that's so it sounds like music for you was an intensely personal and intimate experience. And
absolutely.
So where, I mean, was it do you think had your friend not had ended his life, do you think that you would have gone into music, or was that really the catalyst? Or
yeah, I mean, it really, I mean, I do believe it was the catalyst, and I'm not sure I would have, because it was so it was so frightfully personal to me. I was consistently aware of the fact that I didn't think I was very good. So it was a very simple approach. Like, nobody's really going to give a shit about this, so why don't I keep this in the dark corners of the closet?
Right.
So when he passed away, it was such a jarring experience. It was such a, in fact, not one I typically talk about, purely because until recently, I guess, purely because I wasn't really sure what the vernacular was in a situation like that for maybe a solid decade after it happened. Only now can I sort of make some elementary level of sense of it all. But catalyst is the perfect term, because it pushed me into the trajectory that I had to go. And he had always been the one that was very vocal to me about it. Like, no, you should do something with this. I think there's something here. And I would always, on drink number 8, be like, yeah, okay, sure. You're my friend, and you're jaded and you're biased, and you sort of have to say this because you love me. And frankly, I would always imprison friends, a very small amount of friends. We had 3 or 4 of us are very, very tight, and we would all, smoke cigarettes and drink far too much. And in an inebriated state, I'd be like, hold on, let me go grab the guitar. I'm going to play you guys something. So they were really the only ones that were, kind of aware that this is something that was palpable to me. It was very real. So I like to think that he's somewhere pretty happy for me.
So was this somebody from your childhood, and when did he pass away?
He passed away in 2004, October 2004. Yeah, he was a childhood friend. We sort of, we had been friends since very, very young, very, very young. And he passed away. He had sort of battled, his own demons for the majority of his life. And it came as quite the shock, obviously. One of our other friends was actually there when it happened, so it was a real devastating, very, very hyper tragic event that for many, many years, I was pretty convinced that there was something I could have done to have stopped it. But inevitably, you come to the realization, that sort of stop sign where you're like, you can only give people as much love as they're willing to take. And I just hope that, when I go, he's, ready to escort me from one area to the next, wherever those areas might be.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss. That's
Thank you, man.
yeah. I mean, but
yeah. Okay. What? Yeah. There's no words. You're complete. That's a perfect reaction.
So speaking of demons, like what are your demons? Like what? I mean, it sounds like I heard like there's either two things. Either you had a really good childhood and it was relatively smooth, or you glossed over it because it was horrible.
No, I actually had. I'm maybe one of the few singer-songwriters that had an absolutely magnificent childhood. My parents and I have a terrific relationship. Believe it or not, they're still together. They just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, so that's a pretty remarkable achievement.
Congrats. That's rare these days.
Yeah, super rare. I always tease them that they beat the odds. But no, I had a phenomenal childhood. But I think one of the reasons that I was able to dig into acting as much as I was I was a pretty happy fella. I was always a fairly optimistic, maybe unbearably so at times, kind of, annoying optimist. So I think when I would get really dark, I would didn't really have any place to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And so art allowed me to have a vessel, to have some sort of I could stay there and not feel like, that maybe I wasn't grateful for what an incredible experience I had as a child. We weren't the richest family in the world, and we weren't the poorest. They supported everything that I ever did. The darkness sort of came along a little bit later, and I think it does. I think that disillusionment comes a little bit later on in life, which is okay. That's part of the human experience. And luckily at that time, I had, this box of wood and 6 strings. I don't know how I would have been able to handle some of the things that have gone on in my life were it not for the solace and utopia I find in music. Because again, with acting, and spectacularly so, there's 85 different puppet strings, right? You're dealing with producers and directors and writers and your other actors, the ensemble, the script, there's even the character itself. There's a particular, there's parameters, right, given to you at any stage of the game. With music, I got to cut all those strings. All those strings were just magically gone. Mm-hmm. And when they vanish, you go, wait, hold on, holy shit, what do you have to say? No, not what does he have to say, or what does that cool playwright in the 1800s have to say, or none of that. What do you have to say? And that's a terrifying prospect, and fucking freeing, man. I mean, totally freeing. It allows you to step into those demons and not feel terrible that they exist, but to embrace them, which is something we don't talk about as a society. Everybody wants to discuss it as a negative. There's a negative connotation or association to darkness, when in actuality, it can turn into quite the superpower if you let it.
So, who is your dark passenger?
I don't know. It's a hell of a question. The 45th president of the United States. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding on the level.
In a sense, I mean, he's our abusive father. You know, I mean, in a sense,
Right,
he's causing a lot of trauma for all of us.
right,
But we've also created him as well. So,
right. True, very true. And a lot of
um,
people gloss over that, Brian. A lot of people gloss over that.
but um but I mean I ask because I mean it is something. I mean I have enormous trust issues and
Right,
fear and um my the darkness within me is based on fear and
right,
being terrified of you know of the existence that I have to face and am currently
right,
facing now. So
right. Of course.
and there's I have some I've experienced some abuse and different stuff, but
Sorry to hear
um
that.
yeah, everybody it's America. This is this is a very violent culture, and
Right, right,
I think if it doesn't manifest physically, it certainly does uh, um, in our how we communicate with each other. Is
right,
we
right,
communicate with each other very violently, and it plays out in every aspect of our life. And I trying to rewire that shit is hard at 42.
right,
But
right.
go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you. Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I mean, I've listened to your music and I can hear it's amazing. You have a beautiful voice,
Thank you, man.
and I wish I had heard it earlier, and we didn't. I guess because you kept it quiet, and how I mean, so I want to go back a little bit
Sure.
because you mentioned Nataki Garrett Myers, who is now the artistic director of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. So you
Right.
created a company with her, and how did that relationship initially develop?
That developed because we did a play. We did August Wilson's Fences,
Right, I
which
remember that.
which caused a little bit of havoc, uh, given the fact that it was a multiracial cast at the time.
Hmm.
I can't even imagine how that would how that would roll this year. But
Hmm.
she was brave beyond. I think I still to this day find her to be one of the most brave artists that I've ever met. Um, but we developed just a wonderful working relationship, I thought. And then my final year of CalArts, she was directing The Duchess of Malfi by John Webster. And I was obsessed with the thought of working on it with her. So luckily I got cast, and to this day, one of my favorite theater experiences of being an actor in the play. And so we did that, and it just kind of it just laid the concrete for a foundation, a working relationship between actor and director that I cherished. And she was when we got out, we just wanted to create. We wanted to be able to do we created this nonprofit that was just seriously in the only super objective was to create new work. So we put on some one man, one woman shows. We put on, we did readings each week. I mean, she still has the theater company going. Unfortunately, I split sort of or I shouldn't say split. I left when my friend passed away. I think it just the stress of having the theater company and the stress of being an actor and an artist and a musician and all these things. It all just kind of it was an amalgamation of everything all at once. And she was understanding of that and very kind and very cool. I mean, she's about the coolest customer you'll ever meet. So and yeah, now she's heading up Oregon Shakespeare Festival, which doesn't shock me in the least. Her talent level is limitless, completely boundless. She's an extraordinary individual, and I was very, very lucky to have for our paths to have crossed in theater school. But I still sort of like to fantasize about doing a piece with her again at some point. You know, when our paths cross again, I hope.
Yeah. That would be amazing. And so I kind of want to explore what happened when your friend ended his life. So where did you go? What did you do?
I sort of crawled into a hole and just months prior, my girlfriend and I had broken up, my now wife. But I was already sort of a legitimate mess at that point. Almost
So what were you
hilariously
dealing
so.
with before he passed away?
I mean, just heartache. I mean, as cliche as it gets, I was just completely heartbroken. I was devastated. She had moved back to her country of origin, which was Mexico at the time. And I was fit to live with. I wasn't really communicating to my family or friends. I was drinking far too much, consuming far too much of the alcoholic beverage. I was just doing things that I knew would be self-destructive because I was, you know, in that place that I think most people get to in their mid-20s when they just want to completely disregard any common sense. In an effort to show how much fucking pain you're in. You're just in so much pain, right? And you don't quite know how to manage it. So I was already sort of in that place, and my friend as well had gone through a really intense breakup. So we were these sort of crying in our beer collectively for a few months. And then when he passed away, I just, yeah, I don't know if how to put it in the right words. It was mind numbing, you know, soul numbing. It was just earth shattering. It was one of those moments that I knew that everything was altered, and so I couldn't see myself going back to the theater or going back to auditioning or going back to those things that I loved so much. Something had broken in me, and music provided that hibernation that I needed. So for like a solid maybe year, I was just I ghosted everybody. I was just gone. I was just my soul was in another area of the sandbox, and I was all right with that. And everybody in my life was wonderful and kept checking up on me. My parents kept, you know, threatening to come down and check in on me, sort of thing. But you know, I just lie and say I was fine and everything was okay. And then when
Isn't that the daily lie that we all
tell
say?
ourselves,
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah, we're
Not
completely
really
fine.
fine.
Yeah, yeah,
Nobody's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. It's so true. It's so true. Which is one of the special things about radical empathy, right? Is that if you recognize that everybody's managing their own perceptive reality and everyone's battling their own issues, it makes it easier for us to, when somebody cuts us off in a car, instead of, you know, wanting to pull over and get into a good old fisticuffs with somebody, you just go, God damn, he must be having a horrible day. It's just it's a much a more straightforward way to not take things personal, because everybody's got their own shit going on and nobody has any real concept of it, because we're all in our own little vessels. So unless we're willing to reach out and talk about it like you're doing with me, we kind of can't judge. That's my opinion on it anyway.
Yeah. So what happened? Why did she go back to Mexico? What happened there?
Well, I shouldn't divulge too much because it's her own personal style. I don't know how much detail she would want out or not. But
Oh, okay. So it didn't really have anything to do with you.
No, not really.
Oh,
It was
okay.
her family was going through some stuff. She wanted to be present for it. I'll leave that as general as that is, but I knew then, Brian, I really knew then, when we first dated, I was like, this is my muse. This is the one for me.
It's your person.
Yeah, it's that person. It's just, you recognize kinfolk, you're just like, that's it. That whatever it is, whatever that X factor is, they've got it in spades. And so, when she was going through her own stuff and had to, manage it on her own, I just lost my mind for a while, hence the record being called For Her. And strangely, when we got signed, there was a big CD release party in Los Angeles, and I was terrified and nervous and shitting myself the night of. And
literally?
she had, no.
Oh, okay.
Thank goodness, metaphorically speaking, but it could have
okay.
been. You never know.
Right. We've all done that.
Right. We've all had nights of shows where you're not 100% sure your bowels are in complete command.
Yeah.
But anyway, she had heard about the show, and she flew out and just showed up.
Wow.
And,
that's like a movie.
Yeah.
That's like a romantic comedy or something.
Right. And it was like the parting of the Red Seas, right? Like we finished the show, and we were all sort of, going out and speaking with people, and the crowd sort of parted, and there she was. And we both started crying and embraced, and it was this very beautiful moment. So music also brought her back to me. Were it not for me taking that shot, who knows where our paths would have crossed. So I owe music quite a lot in my life.
Wow, that is some dramatic shit. Like, I have not had a single cinematic moment like that happen in my life. It's all been awkward tragedies. I have not had that moment where, like, across a crowded room, the end of Harry Met Sally.
Right.
And but that is so beautiful. I mean, that is so fucking rare to have that cinematic moment. And it was, I mean, that's intense. And it was your first album?
Yeah, it was the first record. It was the first, it was sort of what launched us into getting signed, and then we've now, I guess it's been 15 years. So we've had 5 records. So that was kind of the first foray into album creating, which is its own cyclone. So that was the first sort of thing that we ever did. And she just appeared. Actually, in all honesty, maybe it's not even music. I think all the credit goes to her, because if I had been through a tough breakup and found out that the other person was doing this thing, would I have the balls to hop on a plane and just show up? I mean, that the courage is, all credit where credit's due. It's all her, not me.
Yeah. Wow. So have you been together ever since the first album?
No, we when she got there, she was dating somebody at the time. And she was just there as a friend. Just to
see, there's the awkward part right there.
There's right.
You're like, you came for me, and then this dude walks into the frame.
Yeah, and her boyfriend, who I got to meet, was a wonderful, terrific guy.
Did you really feel that at the time, honestly?
No.
Or you're like, fucking.
What makes it worse is that he was also a really good-looking guy. So it was just all on all edges. I was like, how did this go down this way? But
were you dating somebody at the time?
No, I wasn't dating anybody at the time. And then through the next 2 years, we just remained friends. And then, very, very long story short, we started to have feelings for each other again, and both were in separate relationships. Those relationships ended, and we got back together. And that third time was when I said, look, I can't do this anymore, man. I can't lose you again. Like, if you're into this, I'd like to, call it a day and let's get married. So, and and we've been together ever since. In fact, today we're celebrating our 9th wedding anniversary today.
Today?
Yeah, we got married on 11/11/11. So
holy shit! Happy anniversary, man!
Cheers, man. Thank you.
If I had known, I didn't know this was your anniversary. I didn't want to. Now I'm interrupting your anniversary. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Are you kidding? Not at all. It's been too long since I've seen you, man. It was an honor to be invited. So.
Oh shit! Is she like off frame, just like glaring at you, being like, "Why are you doing this on our anniversary?"
No, but she did say, just out of curiosity, how long is it going to take? And I said, I don't know. I mean, I didn't ask him that.
Well, like, okay, the bottom line is, is when you say I've had enough already, that's when we're done. So,
hey man, I'm here for the whole run. So we go as long as you tell me.
Well, if you're done now and you got to get to the anniversary, I understand. Holy shit!
No, we celebrated earlier today. We're all good, but I appreciate you checking in.
Well, I'm really honored to be part of your anniversary.
Now, see, isn't numerology interesting? Isn't it weird that a year from now, if it's 10 years, right? Probably 10 years would be. I don't know why 10 years is more important than 9. But 10 years, I'd probably be like, hey, can we do it tomorrow? But, 9 for some reason is just, it's just a special day as opposed to like, and I don't know, numbers are crazy. So yeah. So 9 feels like just a normal day, which is awesome because, most couples don't make it 4 or 5 or 2 or 1. So, which by the way, you recently got married. So congratulations to you, man. What the fuck?
It's been a year in October 11th.
Hey, man. Hey.
Yeah. So I have an 11 in there.
Awesome, man.
But I have an awkward 10 in there and then a 19. So I don't know what the fuck that means, but holy shit. So tell me how do you keep your marriage together? What's the secret? Is there a secret?
I mean, I feel like for everybody, it's probably different. Like I always feel I want to be the kind of person that, that takes advice, but not somebody who gives it, I don't know if that makes any sense.
No. I don't give advice either. I don't. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, not that I really have any advice. I don't really know anything. Right. I'm kind of a moron.
It just always, sort of feels bizarre. But I guess if there was one thing that I would recommend, sort of mincing words there, but I would suppose it's communication because with any relationship, despite the definition of the relationship, I feel like, the only way to charge forward productively is to just communicate where you're at, which is so hard sometimes, even in the most basic fundamental way. It's such a simple thing. It sounds like, it's like, oh yeah, 2 + 2 equals 4. All that arithmetic makes sense, right? And then as you go to say 2 + 2 equals 4 the next week, it comes out like you're trying to, memorize nuclear physics or something. Like, well, why is this hard now? I don't get it. I'm just trying to tell you how I feel. So I suppose if there was one thing that I would weigh heavily on for a solution to all problems, it would just be to communicate. And then, like a great actor, listen. All great actors listen, and I think listening's fucking hard too.
Yeah, I mean, communication is very complicated because I try to practice nonviolent communication and
beautiful.
I suck at it. I really do. Like my wife, every time I come out and start, communicating, so in quotes, she's like, "Is that nonviolent communication?" And I'm like, "No, it's not fucking nonviolent communication, but I got to tell you what's in my heart."
Right.
So, and
true.
Yeah, she likes to point that out, that I'm not practicing it very well. I
feel like the key word in that sentence is practicing, right? Practicing isn't it's not always ideal. Practicing, sometimes you're going to swing at the ball and whiff, and I guess better that than not practice at all.
That's true. I'm going to tell her that. I'm going to be like, I'm practicing. I'm swinging and missing, but at least I'm practicing.
Right.
I show up to practice.
Right. I show up to practice.
and I don't.
She's gonna blame this all on me. I know where this is heading.
No, no, no. It'll eventually go back on me, so don't worry. But that's so beautiful. 10 years in 2021. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about this music journey. Like, so you lay down some tracks and you made the first album. And oh, by the way, did you tell her that the album was about her?
I was really scared to. I think I was just, letting pride be that
Really
horrible dark passenger for a while. I was just like really terrified that she would know that or something. I don't know why that really freaked me out, but at the time it freaked me out. So anytime we would do any interviews, I would always bullshit and say, it's her meaning love or Mother Earth or whatever you want to call it. It's her meaning it's a generality. It's not a specific human being, when in actuality it was just utter bullshit. But that's exposing yourself to that kind of degree, I think is scary. So it was easier for me to just kind of hide it, and then when we were friends years later, she said, "Look, you can be honest with me." And I said, the answer, obviously. So I guess I didn't hide it all that well, but that was the idea back then.
So when you say pride, were you saying in a sense that you didn't disclose that it was about her? Is it because she was dating someone and you didn't want to be like her, be like, oh, that's sweet, but I'm with this dude, Was that the thing, a rejection, or what was it?
I probably, if you were to look at its basis nature, I would imagine. Yeah. I think that's really anybody, right? Like you were saying earlier about fear. I suffer from panic attacks occasionally, and that's all fear-based, right? It's all fear-based. It's all, and you can always trace it back to some level of either, conceptual rejection or, force-fed, you future thinking, oh, this person's going to think this, or this situation is going to be dealt with this way. And it actually hasn't happened yet. And so fear creeps in that way. I think pride is very similar. You're always sort of convinced that that someone's going to take a look at your art, your baby, you're cradled, incubated for 2 years, sonic child, and go and give you the worst possible reaction. I always tell the band, I would rather somebody hate what we do entirely or love what we do than be indifferent. I think indifference is like cancer to art. That old adage, good job. Yeah, good job. It's like, shoot me, kill me. Like, don't say good job. I don't want to hear good job. Tell me anything other than good job. Critique me or whatever. So I don't know how I got on that tangent, but I guess my point is, when you said, was it pride or for fear of rejection? Absolutely. I think anytime I'm working on an album or a new song or anything like that, I never want to play it for people until I feel like it's somewhat finessed, because your pride tells you, hey man, they might tell you it sucks, or they might tell you it's not as good as the thing you did before, or they might tell you any number of things that will affect the outcome. When in actuality, I've played things for the band, I've played things for my wife, and they've been like, giving me really constructive criticism. Hey, what about this? Or that, this moment felt like you're still searching, and inevitably it's always led to positive things when I've sort of ignored that dark passenger of fear.
The good job thing, I have to tell you a story, because you can probably relate to it. We both had Lou Palter as our acting teacher at Cal Arts, right?
Well, I
And
had Craig and Lou, but mainly Craig, but I had Lou for a few, like a month or two. So, and I loved him. So continue. Yeah.
so I think when you were doing scene showings, I came to your scene showing, and I don't know who it was, but after the scene showing was over, I went up to somebody and I said, "Hey, that was nice work." I went, "Nice work," and
Right.
Lou went, "Nice? What the fuck are you talking about? Nice? What the fuck does that mean? It's not good. It's not bad. Nice doesn't mean anything, you know?" And I was like, I mean, at first I was like, man, easy, but I got it, you know. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. Nice is
Right.
not good. It's not bad. It's just
Right.
like, you know, it's nothing. So
Yeah,
I
and
get
it's
that.
and it's and it's and it's and it's obviously the originality of the, you know, you were just trying to be kind. You were just trying to be complimentary. Um, but artists are absolute Looney Tunes. I mean, we all are to a certain, at varying degrees, and we have um, this sort of frightening concept that maybe, just maybe, the way that I want you to experience the art will happen. And inevitably, we're let down almost every day. It doesn't matter if we got a standing applause for 10 minutes. You'd still think to yourself, but God damn, I thought this could happen and this could happen. There's you conceptualize all the time as an artist. You're constantly, the art is malleable even after it's finished. You're still thinking of ways to better it. And that's one of the beautiful things about theater. You can't. It's in that moment. It's impulsivity. It's instinct. It's there immediately. Nothing passed. And that's the unfortunate reality and lovely reality of film, is that it's forever. It exists forever, right? So whatever happened on that celluloid, or maybe it's not film anymore, digital, but whatever happened there is your responsibility, right? So you have all these different varying mediums of art where you're forced to deal with your own fear, and I think that's really beautiful. But I think artists are really fucking crazy, man. And I think we have a really difficult time managing our, you know, sort of normal life with or normal relationships with our relationship with our craft, because our craft is so heightened and it's so personal to us, and it means everything. So when it's pedestrian for somebody else, when it's middle of the road, when it's indifferent, you know, it's like you're ready to jump off a cliff. Even if the person that's giving it, you for example, who's one of the nicest people I know, says, "Hey, nice
Appreciate
work,
that.
like great work, nice work." You should be thrilled, like, "Oh, here's a really insanely talented actor telling me I did a nice job." You know, the intention was beautiful, but poor Lou let you have it. It sounds like.
Lou, I mean, he was so funny. I remember we had to do the emotional recalls,
Right, of course.
and I remember doing this emotional recall about something my stepfather, it was like an abuse thing. My stepfather like grabbed me and he got really violent. And anyway, so I was
Oh,
kind of
sorry to hear that.
reenact.
Jesus.
Yeah, you know, it's we live in a violent country. So
Right.
and and he anyway, so I was doing this reenactment of what I was experiencing, emotional recall, and then I was being
Whew.
pretty genuine with it. And then I don't know what I did. I like either started laying some emotion on it that wasn't like authentic, and I would like ended up being on the floor. And I remember him saying like, "Was that for us?" And I was like, and I was like, I think I was trying to like play it off like I'm still in it, you know. But it was like
Right.
he was right. He was right. I mean,
Right.
he knew exactly where it was authentic and when I started to lay some bullshit emotion on top of it. And I appreciated that about Lou, because he was always I think it pushed us in the right direction of where we need to go, because you know he'd been
Right.
doing it
Right.
teaching for so long. You know, he taught Ed
Right.
Harris and Don Cheadle,
Right.
and he knew, he knew how to bring out what needed to come out of us. And
Yeah, he and Craig were phenomenal bullshit detectors. It
yeah,
was pretty special, their ability to just recognize at a moment's notice when you were pushing and when you weren't. Yeah, there were. I still think of them fondly. Are they still teaching there? I don't even
yeah,
know.
they're still doing.
Still there?
Craig and Lou are doing their those workshops where they workshop new plays and
Mm,
scripts and books, and I think they're still doing it. So if anybody's
beautiful.
interested, I can direct you to Lou and Craig Belknap, Lou Poulter and Craig Belknap for their class. But yeah, I mean they're amazing. I want to interview both of them, just because uh, Craig was, he really was in many ways like a father to me and how he treated me. And I think he probably treated everybody like that. But, you know, he was one of the first people I told that I was losing my eyesight, because I found out my first year at
Wow.
Cal Arts.
Jesus, I
And
didn't know that.
yeah, I mean, it's a long story, but basically I found out my first year, but my mother she knew about it because my brother had the same condition, but she didn't want to tell me because of some of the stuff that I'd been through. And so she kind of
Right.
wanted to
Right.
she wanted me not to worry about something other, something that would cause more trauma again. So,
Wow.
I understood why she did it, but at the time, it was just, I was going to leave Cal Arts. I was like, fuck it. I'm not going to be able to act. I'm going to go and become a psychologist, and which actually now wouldn't have been a bad idea. But what happened is Craig and Fran was Bennett was the head of the dean of acting at Cal Arts, and they were like, no, you got to stay. You got to keep doing this. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll do it if you believe that I should do it. I didn't know. So,
Right. Right.
I think I wish I would have just kept doing it and not, because what I was doing at the time is like, I don't know if you knew this, but I was in the Richard Foreman project piece, for a
I
while.
remember.
Basically one rehearsal. And then what happened is the first rehearsal, there was this light coming from the audience at eye level onto the stage. So it was like this bright light in your face. And I remember we had to run around, and like, I was just like feeling really scared and nervous about running into somebody and hurting somebody. And I was like, and I just quit. And I was like, and I didn't really explain why. I was just like, I don't want to do this. This is not my thing,
Right. Right.
and,
Right.
and that was bullshit. And so, I mean, I've explained this on the podcast before, but basically what I'm trying to say is I just stopped doing things and saying I can't do this anymore, and I need to do
Right.
something else. And that's why I went into directing. But what I really needed was somebody with some experience, understanding disability, and being like,
Right.
all right, you can do it like everybody else, but you can still do it, And I didn't have that kind of guidance. What I remember, and I don't
Right.
know, I mean, it's, who the fuck knows who told me what, but I just remember hearing a lot, just do it for as long as you can. And so
Right.
that was,
Right. Right. Of course.
and so I don't know. I mean, I know I was in denial. I know that I probably didn't hear some wisdom that I should have, kept close to my heart. But it is what it is. My wife hates when I fucking say that. It is what it is. I can hear her
No, but
right
I
now.
mean, what I mean, it's I think I can't I can't even begin to imagine how difficult that must have been for you. And I think I think it sounds like you handled it about as classy as anybody could, given the
Not really.
circumstances.
Not really.
No, but I mean,
I
I
handle
mean,
it.
as far
Just
as,
ask
I
Matt
mean, you
Dittman.
still. Oh, I
Matt
love
Dittman
Matt
knows
Dittman.
how classy I was. The
I love Matt
cocaine
Dittman.
and no,
Oh wow! All right, all right.
no, I went through. I drank a lot and
Right,
poured booze on the pain, and I did
right,
not handle it well, and I just um I mean it could I guess I could say it could have been a lot fucking worse, but
right, right, right.
um but I mean, it could have been better too. And I think, you know, I just, I don't know. I didn't, I want to talk about you, enough about me.
Deal.
And, and, yeah, I have a lot to process. It's probably not the best on the podcast. No, I mean,
listen,
I have a lot of regret, man. I have a lot of fucking regret. And,
right.
and, I'm still dealing with it. Like to this day, I'm like, what the fuck did I do with my life? Because I isolated myself and I bullshitted myself. And I did a lot of fear-based shit. Like I got into the porn industry as Max Massimo.
I remember hearing about this.
I'm sure you did. Yeah, I wrote Pirates 1 and Triple X and Pirates 2, Stagnetti's Revenge under under the pseudonym Max Massimo.
I remember hearing about this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was the project manager for the company Digital Playground, and that was all fear-based and just being like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I got this undergrad degree in acting, master's degree in directing. And in 2000, that's funny that you say 2004, because that was a shitty time too. That's when I was like around 2004, 2005, I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. I'm going blind and it's going faster than I was told. I was told by an ophthalmologist that I was going to have useful vision into my 50s. So I'm thinking I can drive, I can do a lot of shit. Right. And in 2004, I noticed, I'm like, no, this doesn't look like it's going. And then I'm like, I need to make money. And so I made that decision. I was a fear-based one, but
hey, listen, man, it's, but again, what I was trying to say earlier is that, there's a level of self-reflection that you have that's beautiful. And I think, whether you have regret, or I think all of us have, a certain level of regret, but it sounds like
do you have regret that haunts you every moment of your day?
I mean, all the time. Yeah.
Really? I was joking because
I wouldn't say every hour of my day, but I certainly things that friendships I've lost or people I've lost in my life that I look back and wish I had done things differently, or wish I hadn't been, I don't know, whatever it was I was in those extreme situations. And, there's lots of stuff that I reflect on retrospectively and think I could have managed that a hell of a lot better. But that's that's what hindsight does to you, right? You look backwards and you go, oh fuck, okay, I didn't have the tools that I needed, right? Like they were asking me to repair an airplane engine, and I had the tools for like a Lego set. Like I just didn't have the emotional wherewithal to understand exactly what I was doing, and these were decisions that would haunt me. I mean, that's the human experience. What I'm saying is that with you, or it sounds like, and then we don't have to talk about it anymore. I don't want to push you into that arena if you don't want to, but I think that's got to be one of the hardest experiences ever, knowing that you're inevitably going to lose your sight. So if that's the case, I think anybody would have gone to drugs, gone to drinking, made bad choice. I mean, that's a frightening prospect. And I think the fact that you're here now and you're talking about it and you're discussing it, you're open about it, I think that's fucking brave, man. I think that's courage. So whatever you had to go through, who cares? You're here now. Anyway.
Well, thank you. No, I appreciate it. And I'm happy to talk about it. I have, if you have any questions, I'm happy to talk about it, but I wanted to focus on you and
yeah, please. Absolutely. Of course.
So, but if you have a burning question, I'm happy to answer it.
No, go ahead. Ask away. I'm ready.
No. So I want to talk about your music and your process, and you wrote the album Hysterical Blindness about me. I'd like to know how that came about.
Right.
Which you didn't tell me about. That's another fucking thing you didn't tell you didn't tell me that you wrote that about me. Why?
I should have.
I wouldn't have rejected you.
I at that time there was no social media, so I didn't know where you were. I was a babe in the wilderness. I was lost.
Matt Dittman knew where I was.
That's true. Although strangely, I saw Dittman recently, and he hasn't aged anyway, whatever. That's a separate thing. So to answer your question about hysterical blindness, that album title came from, at the time, I was like deeply suffering from panic attacks, like to a point that was debilitating. It's not even the right word. I mean, it made me like I'd never really been a recluse or socially inept, and I had become like agoraphobic. I mean, like I just couldn't leave the house for like a good solid 6 months. We were leaving the label. We were in litigation, leaving the label. It was this big, horrible mess. It sort of felt like starting over. There was all sorts of unknowns at the time. There was a lot of money passing hands. It was just like this whole thing that had nothing to do with my craft. And we were 2 albums into that contract. So we were still one away, and I was trying to sort of get away from that. And what a large cliche, you know, the artist trying to leave a label, but nevertheless. Anyway, I started suffering these panic attacks. In fact, one day it got so bad, and I didn't know what it was. At first, I had no understanding of what it was. My heart was racing, my palms were sweating. I was losing vision. I was like blacking out. And I called my manager and I said, "Hey, look, something's happening. I think I might be having a heart attack or something." Mind you, at the time I'm 32 or 31, something like this. And he was like, "All right, well, I'm going to come pick you up and I'll take you to the hospital." So I go to the hospital and they give me chest X-rays and they did the whole workup, the whole nine. Like, and I'm sitting in the emergency room, like I'm almost 100% convinced I'm dying. My hands are shaking. I'm sweating. I'm sort of in and out of consciousness. It was a disaster. I was nauseous. My heart felt like it was slowing down. It would go racing and then it would slow down. Anyway, very long story, a little bit longer. The doctor came in and said, "Look, I think you're suffering a panic attack." And I was like, "What's that?" I mean, I knew what a panic attack was. I knew what an anxiety attack was, and I'd had several, but I'd never had, a full-fledged panic attack the way this was. And so the next few months were riddled with, Xanax and popping those things like they were fucking Skittles, and really trying to understand what was going on in me. And so when I wrote this record, and we completed it away from the label, it became glaringly clear to me that I wanted to name it Hysterical Blindness, because it's actually a real thing. If the body sees something so traumatic, let's say a dead body or a car accident where there's some sort of gruesome ending to a life, the body sort of goes in shutdown mode, just sort of shuts everything off, which is sort of the feeling that I had. I felt like I was on a flip switch, like a light switch. And so that's why I decided to name the record Hysterical Blindness. And one of the songs is called Cuckoo on it, which is sort of what I felt like I was, if not dying, losing my mind. So it was a strange couple of years there that I'm happy I went through now in retrospect, because it enabled me to figure out that it's okay to not have control of all things at all times. But fuck, it wasn't one of the scariest things. I don't wish it on my worst enemy. So yeah.
What was the, is there something that was the root cause of the panic attack? Like when you think back on it, I know you mentioned, fear and about the future, but was there something in particular at that moment that it was because you were leaving the label and you weren't sure where you were going, or what was it?
I'd say that was sort of the main one. But we lost a tour slot we were going to have, fairly big tour slot we were going to have. The money from the label was going away, so I knew that was going to change the dynamic of how to move forward until we either found a new label or stayed independent, which was a huge decision. There was a lot of cusp moments, a lot of feelings of sort of edge decisions. My wife and I had started dating again. I knew I wanted to get married. We wanted to buy a house. There was it was money thought. It was all those things. And then mixed on top of all that, there was, fear of success, fear of failure, fear of, I've always been somebody that's pretty strangely attracted to the concept of mortality. Like, it's just a weird thing to me, the thought of that we're all collectively going to experience this thing that no one really knows what it is. It's just a fucking completely insane concept, that we're all going to experience.
Shuffle off this mortal coil.
Right. But no one really knows what that is. If it's nothingness, if it's everything, if it's all the things you'd like, if it's a secular God, if it's light, if it's any of these things, if it's none of them, if it's all of them, if it's a mixture of some and not others, no one really knows. So I've always sort of been really fascinated by that. So I think that mixed in with all of those other issues happening, and we were going through, this sort of litigious battle. I think I was so stressed out. My body just had a moment of hysterical blindness. It was like, you can't manage this anymore, so I'm going to manage it for you. And by manage it, I mean, I'm going to scare the living shit out of you. But it was quite the experience, and it led me to write music that I'm happy it exists.
So what was part of it like, if I'm not a musician, who am I? If this doesn't work out, was that a thought? Was that part of it?
No,
or
that was never part of the thing. That's never really been part of my thing. Identity has never been, or rather success. I always tell the guys, like, whether we're playing to 2 people in a coffee house or we're playing Madison Square Garden, it's not really the point. Like, I want to affect people. I want people to associate to something that we've created. I want someone to feel a moment of sheer, utter despair, and hopefully they hear something in what we've done, a melody or a harmony or a lyric or a beat or something that gives them just the smallest millisecond of hope, of kindness, of compassion, of love. Then that's really the whole point. Like, the whole point. So it was never that for me. It was never like, ooh, what am I without this thing? I'll always be this thing. There's a compulsion to it for me. I'm compelled. I'm not. It's not something that I choose to do. I don't wake up and go, well, I guess I got to put these pants on. Like, it's. I wake up and the skin's already over the bones. Like, there's no two ways about it. Even if I, honestly, Brian, even if I had decided to give everything up tomorrow and work a 9 to 5, at the local used car sales lot, I would still be compelled to come home and create, because it's part of the fabric of my being. So it had definitely had nothing to do with that. It absolutely had no part of what am I without this thing? Because I know I'll always be that thing, whether the world deems it successful or unsuccessful or good or bad or shitty or glossy or whatever. That was never the thing for me. For me, it was the shaky ground, with the label and sort of this you're getting older. It's you don't quite feel as invincible as you feel in your 20s. All of those things. Not to mention, I was absolutely treating my body like shit. I mean, I was smoking a couple packs of cigarettes a day, and no, I quit. I quit 8 years ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you, my friend. I miss it. I miss it every single day, but I'm very, very happy I'm out with it.
Yeah, I miss it too.
Yeah, it was part of, every bit of the culture of what I did. I'd write with it, in between rehearsals at Cal Arts, we'd smoke it, I'd watch a movie and have a cigarette. I'd wake up and with coffee, with a beer at nighttime, in between rehearsals for the band. It was built around the entire culture of my life. And then I had to re-educate myself, which is hard knocks when you're, 31 or 32. But I told myself it's better that than 61 or 62.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you feel like is the driving themes of your music? How would you describe it? I think you did a little bit earlier, but I kind of like to hear it again.
I'd say that's a really interesting way to put it. Driving themes. I believe in our better morality as a collective whole. I believe that hate is taught. I believe that love is something that's inherent in our nature. And as perhaps naive as that may sound, it's something that drives all of the music that I create. Even the darkest stuff, even the super heavy kind of anti-war things that I do, the political things that I sort of chase. Despite all of that, the heartache things, I generally don't sit down to write when I'm happy, right? I sit down to write when I have some shit I have to grapple with, something I have to wrestle with. And yet whenever I reach the destination of either the song or the album or the project, the piece, whatever, I always figure out, or maybe it's not even necessarily conscious, but I always find my way back to hope and kindness and compassion and love and forgiveness and these sort of very cliched words that kind of don't mean anything anymore, but desperately need to again, because we're so focused on. You said we live in a violent country. I think we live in a violent world. Not to sound like that's better or worse, but humanity has become so obsessed with winning, with this winning culture of I need to top, I need to make more, I need to do better, that we forget ourselves. We forget that we're all traveling kind of alone to a certain degree, so helping one another might be something that's integral in the process. So for me, yeah, the driving themes, I guess, sorry, I sort of find myself away on these tangents, but for me, the driving theme is I guess if I had to use one word, and people might roll their eyes at this, but it would be love, right? It would just be love. And I don't know why people are so scared to say that word, but
It's vulnerable.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, it's vulnerable, and I think it's not cool or something. There's like it's not like, I'm not speaking generationally. I'm not speaking like timely or millennial or anything like that. I'm just saying we got to a place where it's just like not cool to talk about those things, and I think that's just remarkably shitty. I think that's the whole thing to me.
Why do you think that is?
That winning culture, I think there was a sort of a deviation away from choosing the humane route and trying to win, that I think is largely sort of demonic, and I think that we lose our sense of community, our sense of self. It's one of the things. Climate change is an important topic to me, and I just can't imagine why it wouldn't be an important topic to other people. Even let's say it's not a political decision or a right or left sort of partisan approach. Just being able to recognize that it affects everyone. I don't know why. I don't know where it lost its shine, but somewhere, like for example, in the 60s and the 70s, that's all you heard in music. That's all you heard. Virtually across all genres of music, you heard there was something to do with love for another person, anti-war. It was this very hippified approach that was awesome to me,
Yeah.
And then we got into this, these other genres of music that sort of pulled us from that, which is fine. I'm not saying
It's bad. The reason is it was love and creating community was bad for business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's what happened is they're like, oh, we can't have this. This is going to get in the way of making money. We gotta put a stop to this.
Yeah. I mean,
and you get disco.
But I don't it's not like I'm trying to win back the heart, this sort of, I'm not trying to convince people, because I don't think it takes any convincing. I think it's there. I think that's something within us all. It's just a matter of recognizing it. So and because that's something I remember I got asked once about that. It sounds like you're trying to convince or something, or it feels like you're trying to do that. And more for me, it was making sense of it all. Making sense of it made sense to me, because I can't imagine existing in a world where those things aren't imperative, where it just doesn't. I'm not sure, what else is the point? Like money? Well, we're not going to take that with us where we go. Right. And winning trophies, things like that, that's not gonna, that won't do anything. It's largely why the mere concept of competition in art is so interesting to me and so bizarre, because how do you say that one performance is better than the other performances, or one album is better than the other? They're completely individual. Yes,
right.
It's totally individual. How can I say Brian's podcast is better than Mark Maron's podcast? Well, that's neither here nor there. It's his podcast is going to speak to certain people differently than Mark Maron's would. But we've become accustomed to this culture of I won and therefore I'm great. And if I win, I get the last word. And I don't know why that is. It's like pissing in the wind. I'm just not sure, like, what's the point? So for me, that, the end all be all to me is trying to find, trying to really, despite, gender or genres or money or class or religion or culture, just beaming a very considerable amount of light. That's sort of the main objective. Even if it's in a vessel that's very, very dark. I mean, we have some songs that are, I can't imagine people would listen to on a good day. But there's some level of hope to it. We just released a record last year called My Rebel Darling, and it's the last song on the record. It's called Pebble of Sand, and it's just that it's about that feeling of feeling tiny, right, in the scheme of the universe, whatever. That you're the pebble of sand on a beach with pebbles of sand on a beach. Like, it's just you can't fathom how unbearably insane it feels to recognize how small you are in the scheme of existence, and yet there's a freedom to it. So I try my best to refute all the shittiness and really be an ambassador of light. But
and that's why I asked you to be on this podcast, is to refute the shittiness.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I don't know how often. I don't know if I do it very well, but the like we said earlier, we're practicing.
Well, I feel like one of the things over the years, and it's kind of a weird thing because and I'm talking about social media, is like I have a really weird relationship with it. Sometimes it's like, oh, this is
Right.
so fucking disgusting, and it's
Right.
weaponized and it's destructive. And then the other time, like, it's a tool. It's okay. But but my wife, my wife and I go back and forth because she knows how to use Facebook, and like it means a lot to her, and
Mm,
me, I'm just like, it's gross. And then, other times
right.
I go back and forth, but but the reason I bring it up is because, you have been, in, even though we haven't talked in
Mm,
over 20 years, just, you comment or something, and it's all about love. It's about, compassion, empathy. And I always feel that with you, even if it's just a small little thing. It reminds me of Mother Teresa. You don't have to do great things. You just have to do small things with great love.
mm.
And
Oh,
and
thank you,
I'm
man.
just saying, even those little comments or those things that you said, even this through social media, I thought, I felt like you were there. You were, you were being present and
Right.
supporting, and I appreciated it. And especially with your schedule, and I know you got a lot going on, and so I'm just saying it meant a lot to me, and I was just so happy to be able to connect with you. And I feel like I'm probably going to be rejected, but I'm going to ask you, because I mentioned this, but I don't think we
Mm.
we discussed it. But I asked if you wanted to play a song. Uh, I don't know if it'll work on Zoom. Is it going to sound weird? Or the other option? There's three options. One is I can ask you to play
Right.
a song. You can say no. The other option is I can give you a host, and you can find a song online and we can listen to it. Or you can just say, hey, go to my website and check out the song. What do you feel like doing? Because I think we should like end on a song. And I'd like it to be a song that you feel is the one you want to be remembered by, or at least
Hmm.
for now.
Whew, God. Well, I always, in the past have try to avoid playing music over Zoom because the sound quality is so, shitty. It's like
I get
watching
that. Yeah.
it's like watching a movie on a, asking a director to, like, hey, check out my film. And then the guy like starts to watch it on his iPhone. You're like, no, 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 don't watch it on that. Like, oh
Right.
God, don't do that. But,
Or
but,
puts the
but
phone up to the screen.
right.
Yeah.
But it's you asking, and I haven't, and I haven't seen you in 20 years, and I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't. So, yes, I guess I'll, you want
Well,
me to play
I
a song
want you
now?
to
Is that
I want you to feel comfortable with it. If you don't, it's okay. I can just tell people to go to iTunes or Spotify or whatever. I don't want you to feel awkward, but but if you're super into it, I want to open the door to this. So, but I
well?
don't want you to I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. If you're not comfortable with it, let's not do it.
No, I mean, I say let's do it. I say fuck it, let's do
All
it.
right, fuck it. Let's do it.
All right, hold on. Let me just tune real quick
Okay.
because that's important.
I was hoping like a roadie would come out and be like from the background and hand you your guitar.
That would be frankly ideal.
That would have been so funny if you're like, no, I don't want to really, I can't do a song, and then a roadie just comes up with the guitar, and you're like, all right,
Yeah,
I'll
it's like
do
the moment in Anchorman when he says he doesn't have his jazz flute on him, and then
the
he pulls
jazz
it out of
flute.
his.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't. And he pulls it out of his
Yeah,
sleeve.
yeah. Still one of my favorites.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Um, so I'll play this tune that is off of Hysterical Blindness, and it's a
Is this the one you wrote about me?
right. That's the other one. That's the other one.
Okay.
But this every song, everything that you make, I think, as a musician, I suppose in any way, in any medium, you feel sort of precious about. But I work on these songs and it takes sometimes it takes a week, and sometimes it takes 2 years, and sometimes it takes 6 months. It's just there's no real rhyme or reason, to creating things, which is sort of the beauty of it. You're never really on a time limit, like it's got to be this, it's got to be that. It just kind of happens when it happens. But for whatever reason, I was in a pretty tough spot in my life at this particular moment, and I felt like I had really hurt someone. And that just felt like oil and water in my soul or whatever. And so I sat down with the guitar as I'm prone to do, and so this song came up, and so it's called "I Am Human," and it goes like this. And if you can't hear all that well, then we can always erase this bit, and you can just say he played it and it sounded perfect.
I just be aware, I don't edit these. They're just as they are. So
okay, cool.
You got to make the decision now. If you're not feeling comfortable, this is not going to be edited out. So just be aware.
I'm too far gone.
Are you sure? Because this is your chance to say, check it out on Spotify.
No, too far gone. I say
all right.
For it. All right. Okay, all right. Here we go.
All right.
And
I can't hear very well. Actually, I didn't tell you this. I also have hearing loss. So I'm gonna leave you with that as you go into this.
Brian. Oh my God. Well, here, can you tell me if you can, this will be our little sound test. Can you?
Yeah, I can hear that.
Okay, perfect. Great. Then I'm sure we'll be fine. All right. Okay. It's a 12 and a half minute song. So no, I'm just kidding. All right.
There's no time limit.
Don't you take me too seriously, 'cause one day I will be back around. One day I will be back around. Don't you interest yourself with the things you can't seem to change, 'cause one day I will be back around. One day I won't be lost, I won't be found, 'cause I am human. I am human. I am human, and I will let you down. I am human. Do, 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 do. I am human. I am human, and I will let you down. Oh. No. Oh, yeah. Don't you marvel at the mountains just to question the good Lord why? 'Cause one day I will speak my goodbye. One day I will speak my goodbye. One day I won't run, I swear I won't hide. One day, 'cause I am human. I am human. I am human. I will let you down. I am human. I am human. Oh, I am human. I will let you never say who I am human. Oh, I am human, and I will let you. I think it's funny that we say that when things don't seem to go our way. Okay.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you have a gorgeous voice, and I had no fucking idea when we were at Cal Arts, and it's it's amazing. These are beautiful surprises, and these blind eyes are not dry right now. I will say that.
Oh, Jesus, man, I'm honored, brother. I'm honored. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, gorgeous. And I really started to think about that one line, "I am human, I will let you down," and it's a fucking weird thing,
Right.
I think it's one of the things that I'm terrified, even in my relationship. I'm worried that I'm going to let my wife down. I'm worried that,
Right.
vice versa. And like, what extent is it tolerable, and how can we endure that pain? Yeah, that's, I mean,
Yeah, and
all when you were singing that, all of that came into my mind about my relationship with my wife, and I'm like, with other people, with myself, about letting myself down, and
right. Yeah,
wow.
it harkens back to something you said earlier on in our conversation where you had said fear, things were fear-based. I just feel like so much of that controls us. That's why we get angry. That's why we watch these, politics, and everything's rage filled and, apocalyptic and fucking, it breeds apathy, right? That's what fear does. It breeds apathy, when in actuality, if you use fear in a positive and productive way, because it is a part of our lives, that, communication and forgiveness and I don't know. It so for whatever reason makes sense to me. So I'm so happy you got something from. I'm so happy you got something from it, Brian. Particularly you, and I'm so incredibly honored that you would invite me onto your podcast. I'm so grateful. I feel like we had such a great, undeniable connection in college, and to think that here we are 20 years later talking about art and life and love and all these things that mean something past what we see on the news. It is everything to me, man. It's just fucking everything. So thank you.
Thank you. And I what I would love to do, if when your next album comes out, I'd love to do this again, and then we can kind of continue the discussion. So I mean, how can we find you? Could you give us the usual websites and things like that?
Website's just brianbuckleyband.com. But we have, if you search the band name on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, any of those things, it'll pop up. We're on all the typical digital platforms: Amazon, Google, iTunes. All the records are available. The most recent one is My Rebel Darling. So I would love for people to take a listen to that if they get the opportunity. And yeah, in the future, are you kidding? To do round 2 of this, man, I all you got to do is just give me a date and I'm there. And forgive me for postponing this one a week. The election had had us all fairly unnerved last week. So I appreciate you being patient with me.
Oh yeah. Thank you for doing this. It's really an honor, and I love the surprise of everything, and getting to be closer to you in this way. I love you, buddy, and everybody, please go check out Brian Buckley Band on iTunes or Spotify and the usual places, and really beautiful work. And I'm really honored to know you, and I'd love to continue the discussion. Um, Let me ask you one thing before we depart. So, what are you doing with the COVID? Do you have any dates lined up coming up or anything like that, or what's the deal?
No, nothing. We stopped everything. We canceled everything, which has been such an incredible bummer for all live performers.
Yeah, I know there's like
theater,
cornfield concerts
right,
and things like that. But
yeah, no, we haven't done anything or even devised any sort of plan B. Really, what we've been doing is we've been doing we're referring, sort of lovingly referring to as quarantine sessions.
okay.
And what we're doing is recording remotely, all of us, sort of songs, all of our songs from any of our records. In an acoustic way, but we're recording them from our homes and then mixing them together and releasing them. So I think we've put up 7, I think now, or maybe that's more than I thought. But nevertheless, if you go on our social media, they're all free there. You can just press play and take a look. But it's all of us in our boxes playing an acoustic version of these full band tunes. So it's been a great solace for us because we can't play live and we can't even really see each other. A lot of the rehearsal spaces are locked down, and varying levels of comfortability from people. You don't necessarily want to be in the same room playing music, and it's very hard to play music and sing harmonies and things such as this with a mask on. So there's so many hurdles to manage right now, which is one of the reasons, again, long story, a little bit longer, but why I'm terribly grateful, and wasn't prior to this, for technology. If it wasn't for that, you and I wouldn't be talking right now, or I wouldn't be able to record with the guys, despite not literally seeing them physically. So it's been kind of a great excuse to get to know the engineer side of me a little bit better and force myself into uncomfortable positions, because I think that's where the best art lies, is when you really scare the shit out of yourself and make you do things that you have nightmares about. And one of those things for me was recording myself. That just was too scary to broach.
Right.
So now, the last 7 months, it's all I've been doing, and I've sort of fallen in love with it. So that alternative, it wouldn't have ever happened were it not for this pandemic.
Do you have a pandemic song?
I wouldn't call it that as much as I would call it a song of the time, sort of. I've had in an insane amount. 2020 has been quite the surplus of artistic creativity. Shit, this week alone has been just constant opening the valve, because if you don't have somewhere to put it, you're just going to scream at your television, which I refuse to do. I'm just not going to be. The fear mongering doesn't work for me anymore. I stopped allowing them that device. So I guess I have lots of tunes, and we're working on things. We're remotely working on songs that we kind of didn't get to finish before, that we want to put out early this next year, which I think will be really cool for us to have completed a project having never seen one another. It'd just be a very interesting way to work. and has been, because we've been working on it pretty steady now for the past couple of months. And I also completed in this time frame of just being on my own, a record on my own that I'm going to eventually put out once I you know, stop being as scared of that too, because that's a pretty scary endeavor when you step away from your brothers in arms and your safety blankets. So lots of different things that are just kind of in the witch's brew that I'm trying to make good so that I can make some sense of all of this turbulence. Because man, it's been a hell of a ride, brother.
Yeah, it sure has. But I'm grateful that you are loving beyond your fears, and thank you. And speaking of love, happy anniversary, happy
Thank you.
9 years. And I'm hoping that maybe we can do it again on your anniversary next year.
Hey, listen. I'm willing. As long as I don't do anything horrible to mess up anything in the next 364 days, I'm all yours.
All right, man. All right. I love you, buddy. And thank you for being here and sharing your beauty, and deeply grateful.
Of course, brother. I want to say just one last thing here before we leave. First of all, or lastly, I want to say thank you again for inviting me. But you mentioned kindness and compassion and those sort of things. You got those things in spades, my brother. And I'm just a mirror, man. And your reflection is flawless in my eyes. So trust me when I say I know you're battling your things. You're dealing with some major shit, but I'm rooting for you, brother. I'm rooting for you. And if anybody can handle it, I'm sure it's going to be you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. All right. Until
All right,
next time, man. So
sounds good, brother. Send my love to your wife, by the way, and tell her happy 1 year anniversary, October 11th.
I will. So this is the Blind Man in Black. You can go to the website, blindmaninblack.com, go to the YouTube channel, Blind Man in Black, and the Apple podcast. All right, man. I'm looking forward to talking with you soon. We're going to have an awkward ending because it's always awkward. And here, so I'm going to stop the recording in